Hi and welcome to Zirkzank Says. I'm Zirkzank and I'm thinking about doing an episode where I discuss the game Elite Dangerous and, to a lesser extent, Elite, and to a more extent, the concept of flying around in space in your own spacecraft and earning money in space, earning reputation, and following a career. So that's what Elite Dangerous is. It's a futuristic sci-fi space simulation where you are a pilot and you fly around the Milky Way galaxy. That's our galaxy, by the way. You fly around in that through hyperspace, jumping from star to star, going to space stations, trading, doing missions, earning reputation with different factions, and you can fight with other spaceships, laser fights in space. It's very, very cool game. That's my analysis. Thanks for watching. No, it's fun because it really, really feels good to be sat in the cockpit. The immersion is fucking fantastic. I've not played it with VR. I've played it with the the flight stick. Here I've got the Cytec X52, pretty much the best flight stick system for Elite that I know of. Playing it with that, it feels so fucking immersive. The sounds, the visuals, the music. It's a really immersive space sim. My favorite part in terms of immersion is when you're going through hyperspace where you're not. It's the one where you're basically just cruising, hypercruise, where you're not like traveling between stars, but traveling past things at like light minutes a second. Like you going fast. The music is good there. I really like that. It really encapsulates the sort of the vastness of space. Just everything's passing you by. I'm not talking about when it does the animation where you've got all time and space warping around you. I'm talking about when you can see everything just going past at like high speed, but it's all like relative speeds. So some things are moving slightly slower than others, but it all sort of just blurs together as you're going through and listening to these kind of upbeat music tracks. That's really, really fun. The other thing that I think is the most like immersive thing is when you're going into a space station. Every single second of it, the whoosh that you get when you go into the through the lock, through the airlock thing, or whatever it is, you go through that, and then there's no sound. You're hearing just like the humming, the electrical humming sounds. You hear the of the other ships when they go past you, and you hear the announcer. I assume that the announcer thing is coming through the radio, or if there's an airlock, then it's coming through physically. So you're hearing through the intercom thing, like the announcer saying like you dock quickly, and loitering is punishable by death. These kind of like throwaway statements. I think that's hilarious. It's like that's just everyday life. You go into the starport, you dock your thing. It's really immersive. I think the immersion is the best thing about Elite. The control system is also pretty spot on. The visuals, fucking spot on. The sound, spot on. The gameplay, it's clean and it's smooth as fuck. But my issue with the gameplay is eventually it gets boring because it's just repetitive. I don't mind repetitive gameplay when it's immersive like that, but it does mean that you get bored. You get bored of it eventually, or you get bored of it pretty quickly. So you can't play it for many hours at a time, and you can't play it for many sessions at a time. The only time I feel like going on Elite is when I watch a sci-fi movie, or I just start thinking about space, and I want to be in that the cockpit of my spaceship, my ASP Explorer, going around at the highest jump range possible. That's exciting. It's fun, but it gets repetitive. Now, the CQC, the close quarters combat, that's what it is, where you're flying around in very small, very nimble ships around structures that have like tunnels in them, and you have power boosts that increase your speed, your weapon damage, they give you extra shields, and you're flying around in the small ships. That sort of PvP, close quarter combat system, that I think alleviates some of the problems with it being repetitive or grindy and boring. That's fun to do CQC, but the progression in CQC and the queue times in CQC and the rewards from CQC, they're not very good rewards, and it does get kind of repetitive, except for it's PvP, so it's always exciting. It's exciting repetitiveness, knowing that you're going like head to head with other players. I think that changes it, as opposed to when you're beating an AI. You don't get to rub it in an AI's face, or you don't get to feel bad that there's an AI that's better than you, because of course the AI can be better, but the player, I'm not going to stand for a player being better than me. And then you try and beat him. You keep going and try and beat him, and it gets exciting. So I think that the PvP and the immersion essentially is what it boils down to. Those are the good things, but the PvP doesn't have many good rewards, and the main game gets very repetitive. So if I were to rate it out of 10, I still give it 10, but I'd say that 10 starts out at a 10, and then it drops off eventually. The more you play it, the more used to it you get. You get used to the game, and then it becomes like it would be flying around in space as a job. You know, you're trading, earning money, bounty hunting and stuff. Loses its excitement. So the game starts out at 10 until you get bored of it, at which point it's still a fucking amazing game. I would always recommend people to buy it, but definitely play it with the flight things that I showed before. I use a Cytec X52, but you can use pretty much any joystick and it'll be good. That one's good because it has all the buttons mapped to in-game things, and in the cockpit of your ship you actually have like a in-game replica of that X52 model, so it looks exactly the same, and when you move the stick, your pilot moves the stick at the exact same time. So even if you're not using VR, it's still immersive. When you look down at your hand, you're moving your hand in real life and your pilot's moving your hand in the game. It's even better with VR. I've never used it, but it looks better with VR. You know, that tiny little bit of immersion there. Use a flight stick. Don't use a mouse and keyboard for it. Don't use an Xbox controller for it. It's a 10 out of 10 game. I played it 80 hours, I think, and at 80 hours I sort of thought, well, I've had my run with this, and then stopped. So I feel like it's 80 hours worth of fun. Haven't been on it for a while though. I could go on it now and probably find it fun for about 3 hours, and then I'd come off. So it's one of those games. That's my review of Elite Dangerous.